Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffing.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, PowrDragn.
What's up, everybody? I'm going to give you the best I can this week because, man, I am dog-tired preparing for Chicago.
Chicago's coming, man. It's coming. Reuben Bressler.
Yeah, you should be in bed. What are you doing here?
Why are we
I
here?
got work to do after we're done.
Oh,
that's
God.
wild.
That sounds like a lot, quite frankly. The MagicCon is coming up, and it should be a fantastic show. Have fun for all those who are going. That said, if you missed our pre-show, patrons and subs to this Twitch channel get access to our extended version early, and we kick it off with our first pick and our code push for CoolStuffing.com. You can get cool stuff in stock every single day. Use promo code MAGICMICS to get 5% off your next order. We would appreciate it. It helps support the show. Singles, supplies, sealed, whatever you want. You get 5% off by using the promo code MagicMics. And support your favorite streamer with suggestions at the end of the show to see who we rate tonight. Thanks to that sponsorship. We do appreciate it. Again, Magic Mics is the code to use on CoolStuffInc.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our first pick. And I can't imagine a larger first pick for this week than the debut of Sheldon's Spellbook, the secret layer drop that was in the works for apparently a very long time. This wasn't reactionary by any means, but it is going to be on sale, and it is not a limited print run. It is going to be a print available from X to Y date, which I don't have available right in front of me, but it is going to, it's not print to do, it's print to demand, which is important because if this would have just been a limited print run product, it would have sold out instantly, and it would have been giant feel bads in a way that this should not be a giant feel bad because it is part of the proceeds are going to the American Cancer Foundation.
Yeah, I like everything about this personally. You know, the only two bits I saw that were negative that bothered me was one, a couple of idiots popped on saying something about the promo piece for it being AI or whatever.
Oh man, that guy stuck his foot in his mouth big time.
And dude, it literally was assembled by the Commander Advisory Group.
Right.
Like, people in the RC actually did the voice recordings. It was edited by one of the members. Like, so that was just like, dude, are we just throwing around this thing now because like one thing sounds different or somebody has a weird accent or whatever? Now we're just going to start calling everything AI. Like, stop that. The people who were closest to him that were working on it were happy with it. Leave it alone. You know, the other was just people being dumb that like not all the money was going to charity.
Right.
Right. And I told people like, one, Wizard said minimum they're going to donate. I think it was $250,000 or something, regardless of how it does. So like that's already a big thing. And they said 50% of sales, not of profits, are going to go to the charity as well, which means they're going to make even less than they would normally make doing that. But like I tell people, if you don't like it and you want to donate some money, pick your favorite cancer organization and just go give them the money. Like, don't look at an organization to say, well, I want to give you money. I want you to pass through all my money to the charity, and I want you to effectively pay me for doing so by giving me a thing. Like, come on, that's not realistic. Like, this is actually really nice by Wizards to do. Like, the cards were cool. The artwork's excellent. Like, it makes sense if you know Sheldon why some of these were even selected. So that's cool. Like, yeah, no complaints. I thought it was just a really cool package of cards, honestly.
Yeah, this is, and again, it was the American Cancer Society. That was my bad, but showed some of the cards on the screen. You know, Greater Good is an Italian because he would always use the Italian name. He's half Italian. Which is great. The thing is absolutely packed with value. Teferi's Protection and Ink Shield alone are $40+, let alone everything else. So they gave it high value, and they're going to split the proceeds, which is great, with a guaranteed minimum, which is also fantastic. And again, I haven't bought a secret layer in a hot minute, but there is not a question that I can't not buy Sheldon's secret layer. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so I'm very excited about that. And again, the fact that this was already underway, which is awesome. And I think Wizards just killed it with this one. There was nothing bad about it, and all aces.
Like, I would love to, at some point in my life, have done enough or affected enough people where somebody wants to do a tribute thing. You know what I mean? Like, so like, it was kind of cool to know that Sheldon at least got to have a hand in it on the way out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because most of the time we're bad about that as humans, right? We want to knock people or whatever, but then when they pass, we want to say all these amazing things about them. We're like, man, I wish we could have spent more time together or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of cool for him to at least have known he affected people enough that, hey, we want to do this nice thing for you. just unfortunate that he couldn't be here to see the end result.
Yeah,
I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Sheldon. Period. Full stop. I mean, like, you couldn't ask for a better person to have invented the format. You couldn't have asked for a better ambassador for your game, and you can't have asked for a better person to have been at the forefront of this resurgence of this new way to play Magic the Gathering. There
Dude, let me
is
tell
not,
you,
you could not have built a better person in a lab.
You'd have to nitpick to find something bad. Like,
yeah, for me, it was incredible because, my first interaction with him was at Worlds in San Francisco. And at the time, he was, level 5. He was over the judge program. Like, there were cheaters he was finding through his, like, various means and stuff. He was the sheriff. You know what I'm saying? That's the role that he was in. And by the time that that sort of I saw that sort of entire half of that part of his career happen, it really morphed into community presence and community building and commander ambassadorship, essentially. That was really interesting, helping make sets and things and not be the presence on the pro tour to make sure that these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, because Sheldon's on the watch. You don't want to mess around. And that was cool. Obviously that was fantastic, and if anything, it was needed. But it was an entire shift of Judge who's going to make sure everything's cool, to Judge who's over there playing in the corner, make sure you're having a good time, and you should really check out this one card for your deck because it's going to be really cool stuff. And that was brilliant. So
also, for clarity to the comments, like somebody asked, did he start working on that when he was diagnosed? The answer is no. He'd actually had cancer for a couple of years. Like, this was more of a recent project later on. And I haven't talked to Gavin yet to know if he knew how close or how bad the situation was for Sheldon, because only a handful of us, to my knowledge, he had even told how bad it was. So I don't know if Gavin knew or not while he was working on it, but I can probably ask him this weekend. But this was something that it's only a few months prior that they had really started to push on it.
Yeah, if I was friends with him on Facebook, and there were times where it kind of got rough, and he pulled right out of it, and then it would get rough, and he would pull out of it, and so when it got rough again, we're like, okay, he's gonna. No, you know what I mean? Like, no, it's Sheldon. Nothing can stop Sheldon. But
dude, I'll tell you, it was crazy. Like, even when he confided and said, like, hey, we finally got that diagnosis, and we think this is gonna be it. This is kind of like the last round. I think part of me was still like, oh, okay, so there'll probably still be another like 6 months. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it ended up being like 2. Just like, oh, it was like that sudden. Yeah. So yeah, you just never know, man.
Yeah, I mean, and to the very end, we were talking about bringing him to a Command Fest, and he was still gung-ho about it, and we were talking about how we could make it happen, what we could do, have some handlers, have some helpers, have his own table set up, he can be at, like, all of these things, because he wanted it as well. It wasn't like us trying to force him, per se. It was, he's like, I want these to happen. What can we do? And we're over here like, whatever it takes, Sheldon. You know what I mean? Like, you just let us know. We will make it happen. And unfortunately, it just can't. So Sheldon's amazing. That Secret Lair release is incredible. Make sure you pick up your copy and support a fantastic cause while you're at it.
For sure.
And we move on from the first pick to gather the townsfolk, thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_T84. MagicMikes_T84 for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Let's move on here to gather the townsfolk. We're going to talk about some of the new Fallout cards that are coming out. This is, it feels kind of Doctor Who-ish, and honest to God, kind of Warhammer 40K-ish, where I don't get a lot of these references. And what I do get, I think, is neat and interesting. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like, when I look sort of anywhere further than, oh, that sounds neat, to like what it really means, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool, really cool little throw in there that makes a lot of sense in the world, and yada yada. But yeah, overall the sets have been cool.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's a sweet card. like I could use that. That's kind of how I view each of these universes beyond things. Because even some of the stuff I do know about, I don't always go deep into the lore, so even things I'm familiar with, I don't know all the references. So it's like, as long as the cards are cool, I don't care.
Yeah. And like, the vibe of what's going on here is unique, I think. I mean, we have enchantments and abilities called Well Rested and Strong Back, and there was another couple of these that are like, that's not the name of a Magic card. right? But it can be, and it is in this world, and that felt really cool and interesting. The sagas all being the stories of the different vaults
Yeah,
in
that's
the
really cool.
story of the game. You have all of these really, from the game, iconic characters doing things that apparently are similar to what they do in the game. So another faithful translation from a Universes Beyond product for Magic the Gathering. And I really appreciate how seriously they take trying to translate the characters, the world, the vibe of other IPs into Magic cards.
Oh
To your
yeah.
point, though, I like the naming on a lot of them because they can be reused. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot more this time. I'm like, oh, okay, you could reprint that down the road, and that would make sense. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
The word on the street for Fallout over the past couple weeks is that the the collector boosters were not highly printed. That Doctor Who went okay, but not 40K gangbusters okay, or great, which is still being reprinted. And so they were like, oh, they're not going to print that many. So then all of a sudden it became a FOMO, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's going to be like some really good cards in there because they've already hinted at some, like
Hmm.
Wasteland or whatever. And today they came out with the first card I want to talk about, and that is Ravages of War.
F
Yeah.
that card.
Ravages
Yeah.
of War is a functional reprint of Armageddon from Portal 3 Kingdoms that has only been reprinted as a judge foil the first time in like 20 something years or whatever. I think 21 years for it to actually be reprinted in a booster, and it is only in the collector boosters. And that to me was like throwing down the gauntlet of there's going to be some value in this set because we need to put some value in this set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think that's bad, though, right?
I
I
don't think
mean,
it's bad.
because
fine.
Wizards is in a weird spot, right? Because fans say, like, well, we want stuff really cheap, but then we also need there to be chase cards, so we want to buy boosters,
Right.
right? Like, so it's like, you kind of have to do stuff like this. Go, okay, cool. We're going to reprint some things so the prices comes a little bit lower, but you're also going to be really excited to get this because you're still, even if it comes down, you're probably still getting like a $20 card or whatever, like,
Right.
so I get it. I get it. I don't mind it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's perfectly fine. Ravages is a weird one to put in a commander
Sure.
expansion, because land destruction is frowned upon in general. But whatever,
But
man.
dollars.
Like, who cares? But the
Yep.
dollars, it's fine. I'll get over myself.
And put
I'm
some dollars
really
in there.
looking forward to people brand new to Magic learning how bad they don't like land destruction.
I mean,
How much do you like your friends?
look,
Right.
I think I think we're far enough away, sort of a couple weeks in. Murders at Karlov Manor has not been gangbusters, has not been a Phyrexia, has not been a Neo. Has slowed down quite a bit in sales. I mean, you can see Professor's a booster box game video is just a disaster. Like it's not, the set's not worth a lot. There's not a lot of expensive cards in it. So to find a new set is being packed full of cards, even if it's in the collector booster, will get people excited about it. And you're going to have the game piece people versus the I need things that are expensive in my packs people wore out until the end of time. Like that's never.
I would also
gonna
say
stop.
this set stands to probably get a lot of sales because people aren't necessarily immediately tapped out from buying booster boxes of Karlov Manor.
They are certainly not tapped out of buying booster boxes at Karlov Manor.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. And again, not every set's going to be the greatest set. I think it started with an interesting idea, but over time, I just have gotten less and less enthused by Markov Manor. I think I've played it and it's okay, and it's fine. And these days it's tough to deal with a fine set. I don't think it's bad. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like we're in
Yeah.
Dragon's Maze territory or something. I just think it's like meh. And when it's just
I think
okay,
there's cards here, though.
There's not a lot
Like,
to get excited about.
as people are building with more things, I think it'll be a set people come back to
Yeah.
to get cards out of and will be parts of other decks down the road. But right now, as it stands, I'm with you. Like it's going to be underwhelming for a lot of people.
The invisible ink thing has just been a giant swing and a miss.
Really?
Well, that wasn't even really invisible ink. I was very disappointed with that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like the one I got, I looked at it because I got the Trostani, and I was just kind of like, "Is this what that's supposed to be?" Like, I can just see it. It's not, you know what I mean?
right.
Like,
It's like a weird foil layer or something strange. Like
yeah, it's
not-
just there on the card. I'm like, I didn't need a black light to see it. I was like, oh, well, that was weird.
It's okay. Either way, let's move on to my next card here, and that would be an actual new card. Let's go ahead and move this here to Vault 75. This is our first Vault saga, which is cool. I do not know the story of Vault 75. I just thought it was a cool saga. I'm sure there's a great story attached. But Vault 75 Middle School is 2 white, 2 generic mana for a saga that starts as usual on Chapter 1 with exile all creatures with power 4 or greater. That's very powerful for 4 mana, first of all. Secondly, for Chapter 2 and 3, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So you start small, make a bunch of tokens, you get rid of all the scary stuff, and then let your creatures grow, and then all of a sudden you can kill your opponents with them.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a very powerful saga. I mean, any wrath that is attached to additional value for the caster is huge. A lot of the saga wraths are Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 also. So this one having immediate effect on the board, being able to clear out those big creatures before you grow yours is a big deal. Very cool card.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to think about the applications for it because it seems really strong. But I'm kind of like, okay, do I want this in some type of like human tokens, whatever deck, and then like after I sweep the board, now my team's really big.
Yeah.
But do I also need to like not play anything that pumps my team beforehand so I don't like wipe out the board? So like it'd be a fun one to build around and see what decks actually want this one.
And there's that sort of eternal debate of, Wraths and Commander, and Wraths and Commander make games take forever, and that's a problem, but I'm like, this is really cool Wraths. So.
But if there's a set that's going to have Wraths and land destruction or whatever, like even the card names and stuff make sense for this set, so I'm all right with it. If we got to put them somewhere, this is probably where they go.
From the chat, Arju says Vault 75 was a vault that they took kids and used in a eugenic experiment. Only the considered useful were kept alive after their 18th birthday.
Oh,
there's
that's
there's very tragic stories.
I mean, this is not a happy world.
Well, sure.
That we're going to. Like, the cartoony Pip-Boy is there to sort of counterbalance the grimness of the world that we're headed to.
It's the satire of you're in a dystopia.
To disarm you a little bit.
Yeah, you're in a dystopia, but it's Pip-Boy. It's crazy. Reuben, what's your first card?
Do you want me to talk about the reprint, or do you want me to talk about the new card?
Let's do the new one. It wasn't in the order that you listed them.
All right.
In the chat.
Well, I am a sucker for alternate win conditions. I love them. I think they're hilarious. It might be the hardest alternate win condition to hit, I think, of any of the alternate win conditions that have been printed. I haven't done the math on it, but Luck Bobblehead is one of the 7 bobbleheads in the set. It's a 3 generic mana artifact bobblehead that taps for 1 mana of any color, like they all do. Yeah. And then it has the activated ability of pay a generic, tap, roll X 6-sided dice, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Create a tapped treasure token for each even result. If you rolled 6 exactly 7 times, you win the game. So if you have all 7 bobbleheads, by the way, these are named after the 7 ability scores in Fallout. They are special, SPECIAL. And L is the luck score. And the odds of this are 0.000357 which are not good. Those are not good odds. And you also need to have all 7 of them in play.
Right.
So this is a tough one to pull off.
We don't even have cards that really manipulate dice rolls very well. So I'm just like...
Not a ton.
You're having to do this the hard way for the most part.
The one that I want to play this with is Will, Blade of Frontiers from D&D, because that lets you re-roll a die when you're rolling dice. So there's a bunch of dice, like Barbarian class, I think, would work with this. There's a couple of ones that would work. It's still going to be tough to pull off. But it makes me happy. It makes me happy that it exists.
Oh, I love it. For those who don't know, the acronym SPECIAL stands for Strength, Perception, Endurance, Charisma, Intelligence, Agility, and Luck. So, Reuben, what is your second card, which is a reprint?
So this is a reprint, and it's a reprint that, I just like that this card exists. and has started seeing more printing, because there was a minute there where this was getting out of hand. They've printed this enough that it's no longer out of hand, and that's Champion's Helm. Champion's Helm is a 3 generic artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, and it equips for 1, but as long as the equipped creature is legendary, it has hexproof. This was originally from the Commander 2011 expansion, and the only reprint for a little while there was a masterpiece. So it took a minute for this one to start getting printed over and over and over again. Commander Master, I'm sorry, not Commander Masters.
No, Commander Masters was
Fallout.
the only printout before Fallout.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was getting like $20, yeah, before they reprinted Commander Masters.
I mean, even more to the point, it was getting kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're getting Champion's Helm, which, by the way, we also get the Diver's Bell helmet Champion's Helm, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
The iconic Fallout look there with this card, I think that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, the card itself is, I mean, just super, super powerful. I mean, how powerful are the boots, right? Which give hexproof, which is very important. Well, this gives your, commander oftentimes hexproof, which is incredibly important, while also boosting it for a single mana once you get it out there. Terrific. And it's a great reprint, I think, for the set, and super iconic. I'll take it. PowrDragn, what is your first card?
Well, my first one is Well Rested. It's a colorless and a green for an enchantment that's an aura, so you got to enchant a creature with it. But the enchanted creature gains the ability that whenever it becomes untapped, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, you gain 2 life, and you draw a card. Can't go infinite because you can only do it once each turn, but that's more than reasonable. What I like about the card, though, is it kind of fits a few different deck types, right? Like, you need something that can gain life every turn to trigger your stuff. Like, cool, you just put this on like a Birds of Paradise, use the mana, you untap it, you get to gain 2 life, it triggers a bunch of things, right? Do you have something that needs to get a +1/+1 counter to start a trigger chain or something, right? This just does it every turn. And you can put it on anything, which is awesome. So you can put it on a mana creature, you can put it on a big flyer that's just going to get through every turn, and the creature randomly just gets progressively larger for no good reason. So if you have anything that like multiplies +1/+1 counters or whatever, it does that. And it's cheap. I mean, it's only 2 mana, it goes on any creature, it fits a bunch of different deck types, and you're getting an extra card every turn. That's the other thing. Like, you're getting 3 abilities just because you decided to untap your creature. Like, that's actually pretty damn cool. So, lots of things I like about this card.
This is a card that I think compares favorably in Commander to Sylvan Library.
Whoa.
It costs the same amount, and if you are playing a lot of 1-drop mana dorks, this will draw you cards, right? So it isn't, obviously it's not as good as Sylvan Library. I'm just saying that if you're in the market for another card draw spell that costs 2 mana in your green deck, this is a great one. And I think that Birds of Paradise, Land War Elves, Noble Hierarch, that style of 1 mana dork is drastically underplayed in Commander, actually. They're half of a Soul Ring, and everybody loves Soul Ring. And so this gives you another reason to do that. Plus, you can play your tapped lands on turn 2, right? You go turn 1 Land War Elf, turn 2 play your Field of the Dead and play Well Rested. That's a pretty good couple turns.
Oh, yeah. And this was... No, I was super excited that you picked this one because I just love this card. I think it's wonderful, and then it's kind of simplistic, but there's so many ways you can manipulate. There's so many cards that they want you to untap a creature to do a thing, or you can just tap your mana dork and have it get bigger and draw some cards and stuff, and that's awesome. But when you really try to manipulate it, and you get a 2 life and a card and counters on their turn, and the next person's turn, and the next person's turn, that's when it gets really ridiculous. And then you're drawing 3+ cards because you got some combo that taps and untaps things, and so there's a lot of sort of ways to go from here. And I just anything that rewards you for just playing Magic has always been terrific.
Oh yeah, you can put it on pingers. You can put it on any of the stuff that cares about being untapped, because that's a whole thing.
Yep.
Like anything that has an ability that maybe you tap it and discard a card to do a thing because you're going to untap and get to draw another one next turn, right? Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
Yeah, card's super sweet. What's your second one?
My second one, this one's a little more just like aggressive and powerful in what it does, and I don't know why it only costs 2 mana, but it's Inventory Management. It's a red and a white, instant, split second, so it means you're going to get to do it, which is awesome because I can't respond to this happening. but for each aura and equipment you control, you can attach it to a creature. So basically, you can move your auras and enchantments around freely for a turn, and this is kind of crazy. Like, and I like the fact that it has split second, because one of the issues you could have had with a card like this is you're like, okay, this creature got through in combat. I'm going to move these 3 things over to it. And you're like, oh, never mind. We're going to terror that creature and you don't get anything. Right? Like, that's not an option here. Like, this is pretty strong. I'm surprised this only costs 2 mana, honestly. And it's an instant. So, yeah, great.
Yeah, my guess is either this is as nutty as like we're all imagining this can be, or it's not as nutty as you think it could be. I guess. I don't know, but it seems insane. Like you set up all of your blocks and like, okay, well now you can't respond to any of this, and all this stuff goes on one giant monster to roll over you.
But it even has the upside of like, you've built this monster with like 4 or 5 things on it. They go to kill it, and you're like, sweet, I'm just gonna put this onto the next thing, right? Like, yeah, like it's awesome.
Yeah.
They couldn't have made this any cheaper. They couldn't have made it any more powerful. If this effect is going to be usable at all, this is going to be the card to do it. I'm thinking Isochron Scepter, right? like, let's just go all out.
That's good too.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this card. This card seems great.
Yeah, and it does require sort of a lot of setup. You have to have creatures that are alive, auras that are still there doing something, equipment that matters in some way. So there's a lot of ifs that have to, boxes that need to be checked. But if you're checking those boxes, this thing is ridiculous, which is super fun. So yeah, I think so far the cards that I've seen and kind of the way that they've been unveiling them has been really interesting. They're unveiling like a deck a day. I think the decks are cool. From what I can tell, they've put a bunch of value into them. They finished the cycle from Odyssey.
Yeah,
for the lands
of the filter lands. Yeah,
it's like such a random thing, because I'm like, okay,
all the sets
we weren't really playing with these, but might as well complete it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that we got them. It's it is a weird place to put them, but I'm happy we got them.
I mean, it's fine.
The Signet lands, I'm going to call them.
Yeah,
even though they came before the Signets. And they have the same text box as a Signet.
And the filter lands are kind of known as something else. So think of them as the Sky Cloud Expanse lands, because it was the most popular, I believe, at the time. They printed them in Doctor Who, first of all. They printed the Sky Cloud Expanse, the OGs from Odyssey. And then they finished the cycle here. I'm like, you could have just put them in Standard or something. Like, you know what I mean? They could have made them a cool part of Outlaws or something or whatever.
Sure.
And maybe they still will. Who knows? But it was just so kind of random. I was like, fine. Thanks, I guess.
Yeah, that's the way I felt about it. Like, it's not... Those haven't been, like, a land of choice for the most part, from what I've seen, because we just have so many lands available in Commander.
Right.
So I guess like it's cool that they got finished, but like they don't really have any cachet to them. You know what I mean? Like
that's fine though. Like I don't want shock lands in the Fallout expansion.
Oh sure.
No, not necessary. Moving on here, the professor of Tolarian Community College, of course, Brian, he posted his TransLifeline fundraiser. He's been doing this now, 3 years in a row?
3 or 4.
I think it's 3, because this one, he raised over $400,000 for the TransLifeline and passed over $1 million lifetime for the organization, which is just incredible. I mean, my God, amazing.
Awesome.
Way to go. Let's go.
Yeah.
High five. This is awesome. Cool stuff got to be involved in all these years, which is also fantastic. And tons of community members threw in lots of cool prizes, that entice people to donate and show their support and show what we as a community can do and really champion. And I love it. This is one of my favorite things every year now.
Yep. Great cause. Unfortunately, we've had some more violence against the trans community in the news recently. And the world still sucks at large, even if it didn't happen as recently. The fact that this is such a successful thing and such a good that can come from our community speaks volumes about our community and speaks volumes about the professor and the thing that he has built and being able to give back. I think that this is the kind of lasting legacy that you want as a human. And the fact that he's reached more than $1 million lifetime, that the Tolarian Community College, I mean, they had $400,000 just this year. That's a huge number, for just, a drive. That's a crazy thing. So congratulations to everybody involved. This is just spectacular, feel-good stuff.
Yeah, when you're that large and you can activate your community for that kind of effort, that's always awesome. I think about that sometimes. Like if I'm ever at a point where I have that type of following, I'd like to hope I could do something to this level to help a lot of people out, because that's a big chunk of change.
There you go. So, again, congratulations to the professor, everyone who donated or was involved or provided prizes, all that stuff, man. It's just, there was just no bad about it. And that's my favorite kind of stories ever. There's no bad facet to any of this, and that's always great. Moving on here, Warhammer 40K is finally coming to Magic Online. This is...
Oh, okay, good.
Honestly, I wasn't expecting this. I thought that the licensing, it kind of came and went, as it were. But clearly they worked it out. And this, Magic Online is the only digital client that you can play Commander cards on, let alone Commander itself with 3 other people. So that's a pretty big game. You can only get these by purchasing them for $40 each, because Games Workshop, needs that cheddar, y'all. But the fact that they're there at all, I think, is huge, and just kind of continues to explain why this client exists. I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was just like, Magic Online is still around? And I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, look, it's still there and makes money. And, there's development and server costs over here, and there's the money it makes over here. And as long as this is bigger than the first number, it will exist, and it could live for a very long time. But this is kind of, if anything, sort of a nod that, like, Magic Online, it really is here to stay. They're all actually going back to the 2022 decks and getting them in the client in 2024.
Yeah. So the big news here is really for 3 cards, one of which affects Commander, but the other 2 affects Vintage and Legacy. I think that Gryson is the ping commander. Okay. The one that, like, whenever you would deal 1 damage, instead you deal 2 more than that. Mm-hmm. That one wasn't online, and so that's a really popular commander deck. But Triumph of St. Catherine was a centerpiece of the Legacy winning deck from the most recent Legacy Championships. And Canoptek Scarab Swarm has been a sideboard card of choice for Karn the Great Creator decks and other, like, Mishra's Factory decks in Vintage. So those 3 cards in particular, I think, are the main impetus to try to get this online. And I'm glad to have it online because, you can't play these cards anywhere else, really. Getting them into Legacy, Vintage, and Commander is a huge boon for the client.
Yeah, I know last year at Vegas, they had a whole booth for Magic Online. They were trying to get people interested. They had some new initiatives to push it. And I was kind of a little bit surprised by that. Not in like, oh, hey, we're trying to drum up more business. It was just like, okay, there's still some amount of dedication to this is going to be here for a minute. And seeing something like this is like, okay, cool. I mean, you're not just going to put this on if the plan is to shut it down in 9 months, right? Like, this is going to be around still for a little bit, and we'll see. But getting these cards added on there, cool step. Honestly, I think that's good for the people that still play Magic Online.
Yeah. Also, I'm moving on to something else with Magic Online real quick, but we can talk about everything else. The cube is back up, everybody. The Vintage Cube is back up. The design notes for the cube are comprehensive and spectacular. Like, previously it was just like, these cards are out, these cards are in. No. Every change gets like a detailed line of text about why they changed the thing, which I love.
I love that. Like, from coming from the old school cube and doing things like, you can't have Library of Alexandria in your cube unless you have Strip Mine in your cube and you have Wasteland in your cube and you have something else that destroys it, like Avalanche Riders. That's a whole thing. But one of the last things, Open Your Eels for the Next Fields has in the chat noted that it is the Warhammer 40K decks are on sale for a limited time only. But I would note that that's like a lot of products for what it's worth. Like, can they become like reserved list in a way? I guess, but they're also not like selling in the older commander decks like they used to either, right? Are those reserve list kind of? But I also recognize it would be very difficult for them to put the cards back on the client if they don't later make, like, secret lair-esque in-universe versions or whatever, which I could certainly see them doing, but probably many years from now. Because at this point, again, Warhammer 40K is still making the printing machines and the money machines go burr, you know what I mean? And everyone loves that set. And congratulations to those who grab the Surge foil. So if you are the type who wants to, invest in that type of product and think you're going to think it's going to go up because Magic Online's only going to have it for a certain time, feel free to buy some of those decks and see if you can resell them later, because that's the core difference of Magic Online versus Arena, which is you can get your value out of the program in ways that you can't in the current digital option. So, all right, so let's move on here to some Desperate Ravings, where we saw a sealed Arabian Nights box go for $212,500 at the February 16th through 17th Heritage Trading Card Games signature auction. One of the true rarities in the Magic the Gathering collector world. I mean, obviously, I think alpha, beta boxes, etc., but it is the first expansion. They are incredibly difficult to find. And they've also kind of waned a little bit. They kind of compared this to the first edition base set for Pokemon, which recently sold for $200K, which is, there's no small fries, but still, it was selling for over $400,000 in January 2021. If you recall, we kind of lost our minds for year and a half, maybe 2 years or so. And we sat at home a lot, and we had maybe a few extra bucks because we weren't traveling or doing anything else. And we said, let's go buy some collectibles and or sell some collectibles. And that's kind of how that went crazy. But
I remember during that period, we also had like a handful, probably like 8 or 10 really top personalities that were just pimping their Pokemon stuff constantly. And then people went kind of stupid for Pokemon for a minute. Retailers had a hard time holding it. Like, everybody was trying to flip it. Like, it was crazy for about 2 years.
Yeah, it got a little dumb. And, literally, the Pokemon company had to go build a printing facility. Helped build another entire printing facility to keep up with demand, because they don't want that scenario where packs are $10 or whatever. They want kids to go in stores, buy some Pokemon, kids to go in the game stores, play some events, and not worry about it selling out instantly.
I can tell you how crazy it was. A couple of my friends at distributors were telling me they weren't even taking new accounts because so many people were trying to set up accounts strictly to try to buy Pokemon and not much else. Mm-hmm. So they were just like, cool, we don't even need the new business. We just don't even want to mess with you. So a bunch of people just couldn't even get access to get wholesale product. It was crazy.
I mean, when you're selling out of everything, why would you want more clients just to fight over what's little is left? So there's that. But congrats to those who sold it for a whole bunch of money. I would love to have a sealed Arabians box. It would look neat on the shelf.
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, in theory, if you were to open it and grade all the stuff or whatever, it's probably worth close to that or more. But but you keep it sealed, because the novelty of it. How many of those exist? Like a couple handfuls, maybe.
Yeah. Every day that goes by, it gets
crazy number
more and more rare.
Yeah.
Moving on here. Red Zone might not be the right place for this to be, but it was something I ranted about quite a bit at the time when they unveiled EventLink, the new way to do Magic the Gathering events, and having been a part of the process of helping that software just exist and beta testing that stuff. One of the things that came back was we need to manually pair things. For example, if someone's disabled, you want them to be at table 1, whether or not their record is whatever, let so-and-so be at table 1. And they kept saying that if you allow this, it's going to be rampant cheating and everybody and their brother is going to be cheating forever. And we're just like, no, it's not. You might have a couple bad apples of the thousands and thousands of events, but mainly it's to help facilitate a tournament going the way you want it to. So fixed seating was added. Hallelujah, we did it. So manual pairing and fixed seating together with their powers combined.
Assigned seating has always been a big thing, and even when I have a whole story that goes with this when this was being developed, but that was one of the biggest things that I even argued and fought for. It's like, hey, here's these various. Hell, you could have somebody who just somebody that comes to your event on crutches, right? You don't want them having to get up and go through the crowd and switch seats every time. It's like, cool, you're just at seat 3, you're going to be here all day, right? It's nice and easy. And then as far as manual pairings, people ask why do you need that, right? And there's sometimes let's say you're doing 3 rounds of F&M with 8 or 10 people or whatever. Well, a dad brings his son or like two friends drive to the event together, like you don't want them to play in round one. Like that sucks to like drive across town or whatever to come play your friend that you probably played against for hours testing your deck or whatever. It's like, cool, let's swap them with somebody else. And now if they get paired after that, fine. But like, you at least don't have them knock each other out of prizes or whatever in the first round. That's kind of lame, especially for a low prize event or whatever anyway. So like stuff like that. There's just like small little things that just can help you make a better experience, and it's cool that those exist for that.
And Pharmacist Judge is correct. Manual pairings is needed for the oops, Judge, we reported it wrong, and suddenly you have to repair.
Also true.
You have to repair an entire round. If you have not experienced the repairing of rounds, first of all, it's kind of weird if you listen to this podcast and you haven't. But secondly, it's okay, because repairing a round is absolutely miserable and just causes infinite headaches and a ton of time wasted. And every 5, 10, 15-minute delay in a tournament makes everything that much longer for the rest of the day. And it's a lot.
So much easier if you can click 3 buttons, break up some pairs, get the right records against each other, and you're off on your way. You know?
Yeah, there you go. So let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Fallout is here. Don't panic. We're talking about the Magic set. So tell me, what are you looking forward to most now that the vaults are open, Reuben?
Well, with the TV series also coming soon, I'm looking forward to lots of native crossover products like Pip-Boy sleeves, Bobblehead life counters, and especially world map playmats. So I can finally find that power blueprint I've been looking for.
You will find it there eventually. PowrDragn?
Well, I'm hoping we get to return to one of my favorite MTG products that we don't make anymore. Because if any set deserves a From the Vault, it's obviously Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's from the vault, y'all. I mean, it's
exactly.
Right there. You know, if
they could make Secret Lair from the vault. They don't have to, you know.
Yeah, of course.
They could resurrect that product just the one time for the Fallout. Yeah. Right? That'd be fun. Now, look, Magic's already partnered with Jones Soda before, so I'm looking forward to Jones Nuka Colas, especially if I can spend those little bottle caps into currency and buy more packs just like in the game. Hey, I got bottle caps. And
that'd be a cool crossover product,
give
actually.
Me boosters.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would be shocked if that one didn't happen. Like, that one seems super obvious.
I mean, we'll see.
They'll be handing those out at Chicago, watch.
Yeah.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, PowrDragn.
Hey, as always, good to be here. And man, this has been a crazy week of news, stories. This was good.
And Chicago's coming.
Yeah.
Chicago's coming. Thank you, Reuben.
We've got to put PowrDragn to bed. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I figured out how to make TikTok work. So there's a TikTok video on the TikTok, which Evan will tell you the name of soon, but everybody go follow it.
At Magic Mike's. It's TikTok at Magic Mike's. Go check it out. As we move on here to our final slide, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, PowrDragn and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at Magic Mike's, live or taped on our YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Magic Mike's Cast, and join that TikTok at Magic Mike's Cast. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.